Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Big Rock Amusements Midway. My name is Justin. I'm going to go over a quick, brief overview of the zero gravity inspection. We're going to try and keep this video under 5 minutes so we can use it on social media and on our YouTube channel. This ride was built in 2008 from Batech Industries. At the time, was known as Dartron, and it's been a wonderful machine for us. We purchased this from Murray Brothers Amusements out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and gave it a refurb 2 years ago. So we're going to do a quick little once over, and we're going to take a look and see what we can. We are here at the Ann Arbor Summer Carnival through Sunday. It's going to be very hot today, so we're going to keep this brief. First thing we want to look at when we look at this ride is we always look at our ride signage. So we're going to walk out here, we're going to take a quick peek around, and we're going to see that all of our ride signage is intact. This ride requires a 42-inch rider requirement. We have special instructions for this ride. We have the credit amount, the name of the ride intensity. This is a high intensity ride, so we try to warn riders, hey, this is not a kiddie ride. We got our work platforms, and then we want to make sure that we have our enter and exit signs intact. Enter and exit. Say hello.
Hello.
We like to put our ride operators on the spot. So we're going to take a quick look around here. First thing we always do is we check all of our controls, make sure that everything's operational, make sure everything's intact, I should say. We don't have, switches popping off, the key's not missing, the palm switch isn't gone, foot switch is intact and not loose. Check for our cable guards here, check for our stairs. We're going to walk through and we're going to have a look at our blocking underneath the ride. The very first thing we do is do a check of all of our blocking. We make sure all our blocking is crib blocked properly. Make sure that everything is tight and right. Make sure that everything all the way around the ride looks copacetic. Pardon our mess right now. We're doing some morning maintenance, and we pulled the cables out to get underneath the ride to do a little greasing and maintenance. We got some racking underneath here. We're hiding from the Hampton. Unfortunately, aluminum is very expensive, so people like to steal it. I'm gonna make sure that all of our platforms are diaper pinned properly. They can't be lifted up. If the platform lifts up, holds in place. We want to make sure that all of our canvases are in place. The canvas doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it really is. You do not want this canvas coming loose and then this aluminum bar being thrown around. It can catch on your hydraulics. It can hurt a patron. We don't want any of that to happen. Check our sweeps. Check our sweeps all the way down to the center. Check for any cracks, any issues. Check that all our cabling and our wiring is intact, nothing broken or frayed, nothing that can shock any of the riders or cause a dead short. Make sure that all of our safety bolts on our bottom pins are in place. We check and make sure that our brake caliper is in proper working order. We do a check of that, where we actually have an operator operate the brake controls at the front, and then we check to make sure that the caliper is doing its job. Make sure that our sweep counter is intact. This ride has a sensor right here that counts the passing sweeps as the sweeps run over top of it, the sweeps being the arms of the ride. And that tells the ride if it's up to proper RPM to allow it to ascend to its full height, to its full angle. Last thing you want is this thing raising up with people on it and not being up to speed. Always make sure that our guards are in place and pinned. We want to make sure that our gears are open gear greased. This one looks like it's going to need a little bit of gear grease, so we're in the middle of our morning inspection now, so they'll be getting to that here in a minute. I want to make sure that all of our angle bars are in, secured, and pinned. They're not supposed to be super tight. They're supposed to be able to move. You want that flex. If one of these suddenly is very, very tight, you probably have a misadjustment somewhere in the wheel, as it's called. You want this to be true and straight. If these bars are suddenly overly tensed, that's usually a sign that something else has gone wrong and we need to shut the ride down and do an adjustment. Want to make sure that our plastic bushing, our nylon bushings are proper. Check that our grease has been put in. As you can see, there's a little bit of grease right here, so we know that it's been getting greased. We check our top bolts. Hopefully you can see that. Make sure that our tear down pins are in place. Our chains are in place for the pins. Want to make sure that our wall pins are in place and the chains are attached. Snap rings are proper. Common known misconception with the snap rings is they can actually be put on the wrong way. If you flip them the wrong way, they don't close and seal. So you want to make sure that all those are put on right. We check all of our fence, make sure that all of our fence is intact. We're not missing any slats, any broken pieces. This ride requires daily greasing. We make sure that this has been greased. We make sure that our hydraulic filters are in the green during operation. You know your cooler's working. Make sure that your pillow blocks are getting adequate grease. You want to make sure that all of your landing gear is properly blocked. You want to check for any abrasions, bulges, or cracks, the ABCs of hydraulics. You want to make sure that everything is intact. There's nothing leaking, seeping, or spraying. There's no evidence of any possibility of failure. And you want to make sure that this valve is working. In order to do that, we'll have to raise the ride up, which we're not going to be able to do in the short video here. But we definitely want to make sure this valve is working. This valve allows for the ride to come down in the event of a power failure. Should the primary valve fail, that's a secondary. I will show you the primary here in just a second. We're going to take a walk up here, have a look-see up top. You want to make sure that your cables are not overly tight, not loose, but not overly tight. Over tight cables can cause stress issues with the ride. The ride is not designed to be tensed up like that. As the ride accelerates, the walls push out against the weight of the riders, the cables will tighten up. You want to make sure that your center is pinned and in place, all of your cable tensioners. Our keys are in place, everything looks good. Make sure that your lights are pinned. Make sure that everything looks legit. You don't have any missing bolts, any lights ready to come off. Check your transformers. You make sure that everything's mounted. Your strobe lights are safety cabled and mounted. Make sure that all your perimeter fence inside, your barrier fence is intact. We're going to widen this out so you can see a little better. Always make sure that your pads are in place. I want to make sure that all of our pads are fastened properly. They're not falling off, not broken. We make sure that our straps are intact. They're not overly frayed or anything that's going to cause them not to be able to go on. People will call these restraints. In my side of it, I call them reminders because they don't really restrain a rider. They simply remind them to keep your butt in that spot. We do check all of our top pins. We have our removable pins that are removed every teardown, our cable pins. We have our secondary brace for these lights, and we have our main braces just in case a rider gets froggy and bumps this, or you get kids with busy fingers. You have a secondary here behind the riders that will not allow those lights to come loose. We want to make sure that all of our cables are in place properly, our power cables. Check all of our numbers are on our seats. We check that all of our platforms are free of debris. They're properly riveted down. None of them are missing rivets or loose. We make sure that our baseboards are properly secured. This is all the things we check on a daily basis. Our non-removable permanent pins have cotter keys in them. Make sure that those are cothered properly. And we make sure that everything else looks ship-shape. Now we're going to move on to the operation real quick. This is going to wrap up here in about another minute or so. Like I said, we're trying to keep the videos under 5 minutes. Unfortunately, I failed, but that's okay. We'll just switch it to the 10-minute rule. We're going to raise our door up. We have our assistance cables here. These assistant cables, they help lift the weight of the door so as to not stress the operators. This has a limit switch on it. Will not allow the ride to operate. Same on this side. If these doors come open during operation, the ride will simply come down immediately and go into a freewheel emergency stop mode. If they're open and you try to start the ride, it simply will not start. That's an inspection point we check every day. And we're going to run down here to where our operators are, and we're going to give it a whirl. Excuse me, sir. All right. Brake off. We want to make sure that our key is working. Key is off. The ride will not start. Key is on. Foot switch out. Ride will not start. Put my foot in the foot switch. Key is on. The ride does activate, and we're going to give it a whirl. This ride does run an automatic cycle. Once it gets up to speed and the sweep counter we spoke of earlier registers 21 RPM, it will allow it to ascend. There she goes. Now we're going to show you the relief valve, the first relief valve, which is an electronic valve tied to the power of the ride. It closes when you supply power to the ride, which means fluid goes to the rams and lifts the boom. When you lose power, it opens the valve and releases all pressure. So to check that this valve is working properly in the event of a power failure, the last thing you want is this ride to slow to a crawl while people are on the walls. So we're going to hit the E-stop. And we will see that it is now coming down on its own. The emergency stop works properly. And then in the event of that failing, would be when you open the valve. To check that, we raise the ride up and then we open the valve and allow it to come down with the power on. We're not going to have time to do that in this video, but the guys will be doing that shortly. Alright guys, if there's anything I missed, I apologize. We ad-lib these videos. I'm not working off a check sheet. I'm just doing it for the fun of it. Thanks for visiting us, and we hope to see you at one of our events real soon. BigRockAmusements.com, coming to a city near you.